I would never tell. Look, I done a lot of shit in life I can't take back. Obstacles I stumble over seem to always shape back. Seem like I'ma spend my whole life running, chasing them rats, trying to stay away from the game. I seem to always transact. You all on that dizzy scale. Them pounds in this bitch got the whole house with a smell. And I ain't telling shit, dog. I got some game for sale. I wear it on the wheel, bag it up, go get my mail. Yeah. We getting pounds by the bell, yeah. Coke for scale, yeah. House got a smell. Hope the neighbors don't tell. Residue all on my scale. I need to clean the shit up. Strapped up, riding to myself. Don't know if he's scheming or what. Mama say, leave the game alone. Right now, the shit ain't the same. And I've been thinking about my kids. Like I say, I'm feeling the same. And I remember being broke, so I'ma go get some change and stay on top of my game so they don't go through the same. I came out, thugging on Magnolia Road. Watching out for the 5-0. Everybody holler one time when the people rule. Granny say slow my rule. With them sales by the door. Traffic causing static and them police, they been kicking those. Be smart now. I wanna let it go, keep running in the hard times. Back to selling nose, working job part time. Clocking out to put some pounds on the clock now. Yeah. I done a lot of shit in life I can't take back. Obstacles I stumble over seem to always shape back. Seem like I'ma spend my whole life.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's going on? This video is special, and this question was posed. Please like this video so we can get it, so we can have people, tapping in. But this question was posed to me earlier on, and it wasn't even posed to me. It should have been, but people have a tendency to speak around me as opposed to speaking to me, right? True elders will speak through you, but those that wish to be speak around you, right? So this question was asked, what are the Guale doing today? It's a fairly simple question, and it can get complicated. Now, to make it simple, to make the complication simple, not all Guale people are doing the same thing. What do you mean? There are people that are Guale that don't know they're Guale. There are people that are Guale that aren't doing anything. There are people that are Guale, they're doing their thing. And then let's talk about our thing, right? So what we include is everyone that has that blood, everyone that's unified in this land. This is why when the name is properly said, it's speaking on all of those inhabitants that were unified or together in the land above. So what are those people that I'm speaking on doing today? Well, they've unified two, right? Not just three, but 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 different families have come together in their ancestors' names. These different families have also began to learn, uh, um, or I'll say as Ibana, right? So they're learning, or we are learning our language, how to speak our language, right? But not only this or our language, but something that is equi, something that's our ancestors, right? Something that's ancient. Now, what will be noticed is when you're dealing with us, we are spread out and together. So you have those of us that live together and those of us that also stay in our respective birthplaces, right? And we do travel back and unify. What do you mean by unify? Some of us have mothers that live together. And with us being where we are, whether it's Miami, Tampa, whether it's somewhere in Oklahoma, right? Whether it's someone in South Carolina, we make it our duty to link with each other, whether it's in the flesh or whether it's in the spirit. And what this is doing is showing others that, hey, I can get my family together and unify with other families and become we again, right? And in becoming that, what do? You learn your language, you learn your traditions, even if some of your traditions had to be revitalized or restored. See, restoration is a great thing because what our ancestors have given us, and those of us that may have lost some things, we have the power to restore that because we have the blood, right? We have the ikwisi or the ikwisi. So we have the ancient blood, right? or and properly said, the ancient blood, or the blood that's enough to restore things given to us. Now, those that may not respect that power will say, well, I've been knowing this since such and such and such and such. And that's all cool, fine, and dandy. For you, it may be about knowing what you knew before. For us, it's about understanding and applying. That's what makes us so dangerous, is that not only do we understand, we applicate. So when you have someone that says, well, we know one of our ancient languages and we wish to speak this, and we can teach this to the world because not only do we know it, you have a structure in which they can learn. You have a specific family, right? That may be a messenger family that can teach this language to all of those who may be Okoromali, right? So in Okoromali, some may say Nakoro, right? The dialect differ. But all of us that are right, properly, Uti, Okoromali, Yupa, all of the inhabitants that are united in the land above have the right to this. Now, what else is going on? What happens when you have these group of people or these different groups of people that are making connections with other tribes? So we can actually sit amongst other tribal people who know who we are. What happens when you have chiefs that are directly in tune with the anthropologists that are doing the work? What happens when you have mothers? And what happens when one of your members have graduated from one of these institutions? So now you have direct contact to the anthropologists that are doing work at the South End Mound. You have contact with anthropologists that found the mastodon bones, right? You have direct contact with those that have studied the craniology, right? Studied the dental work, the skeletal remains, studied the history of those of Guale origin. So when you have a people, families, right? All of the inhabitants united that are doing the work, that's dangerous. Now, here's the thing. Being that this is, let's say, the MLB, right? Or let's say it's the NBA or it's the NFL, I would be LeBron James, Patrick Mahomes. I'm the face of this shit because I know how to do it. But that doesn't mean that my center got to get me the ball. The running backs got to run. The guards and tackles got to block. Receivers got to catch. Defense got to defend. Coaches have to coach. Fans have to cheer. So you may see me and be like, well, he's saying this so we can attack. And it's like, you don't know how many people are behind this force that are feeding this fire. Fire, which is why the color today is blue. And a royal blue, as I offer mercy. But not mercy and vengeance, right, Guale? Those of Guale know, but simple mercy. Because you may not know what we're doing because we chose to not be on camera. We say, you know what, we're not going to do the camera thing because we don't want those two or those people to attach to us simply because they see the name Guale. If you've been here before, if you've studied my work, you know Guale Origins is speaking about those before the people that became known as Guale to the Spanish. So we're dealing post-settlement. Hey, Auntie, what's going on? Hiyoko, Unc, what's good, Unc? So with that being said, in this mercy, right? In this form of mercy, what I'm saying is this. Guale that you know of, the Guale that you all know of, but I'm going to keep it all the way, is by way of Europeans. So when we say some shit, or it's by way of textbooks, never science. Because if you knew Guale or studied Guale based on science, there are some things you would never say about the Guale in history. See where I'm going with this? If you could study the science of the people, there's no way that you would be able to deny the story. So what does this mean? We went over this a couple days ago. When it comes to Guale, or the people that were post, those who birthed those of Guale origins, we know the name, right? We'll say it again. Let's say it together. Uti, Akoromale, Yuba. Right? All of those that inhabit the land above, or the land above which the inhabitants are together above, whichever translation, right? With these people, you have to understand their culture. So before there was maize, these people had a way of living. And in their way of living, this was pre-Muskogee. Again, if you study the science, this is what me and Unc was talking about. It's what me and Crane was talking about. If you study the science of the people, they can't lie to you about the story. So what does the study of the South End Mound say about maize? And I went over this in the but here's some things just to touch on, right? Excuse me. So let's go. Prehistorically, the mid-region of the Georgia Bight, the northern Georgia coast, was occupied by the ancestors of the Guale Indians. Prior to about AD 1000, the populations were exclusively, hunters and gatherers, subsisting on a variety of terrestrial and marine animals and terrestrial non-domesticated plants. So it then says stable isotope analysis of human remains from the Georgia Bight reveals that sometime after AD 1000, maize was adopted. Maize was adopted. Now, with it being adopted to into the culture of those that were Wale, the thing that we've explained, or that we also explained, is it was then that the body, right, the function of the bodies began to change. But not only was it that, one has to also remember and understand that when the Spanish brought their form of maize, which we call corn today, this was the utter destroyer. So what I will say is the other maize was terrible because it had the same effects. However, when the diet was exclusively maize, there are some things that had happened. So what are these things that happened? And this is science. So it says, importantly, the carbon isotope ratios are higher than those for the prehistoric Georgia coastal hunter-gatherers. This is pre-AD 1000, indicating an increased C4 maize consumption for the population represented by the South End Mound 1 remains. The South End Mound 1 nitrogen isotope ratios are slightly lower than for an earlier population from the region, reflecting a somewhat reduced marine signature. So what's going on? Based on the nitrogen in the body or in these bones, they can actually tell how much maize was eaten. Not only they could tell how much maize was consumed, but they also figured out that, hey, these people didn't have a need for it, so there must have been a famine. Now, Auntie, correct me if I'm wrong. I need you to leave a comment. But you know about the lady? What is it with the grandma when you got the extra skin on your toe? What they say? Grandma said you got a corn on your toe. Now, they say that on the other hand, the carbon isotope ratios for the South End Mound 1 individuals are lower than for the historic era Wale from Santa Catalina, their Wale missions on St. Catherine's and Amelia Island. So the prehistoric Guale didn't eat maize. The late historic Guale ate maize, but it says that the late prehistoric populations ate more maize than did in the early prehistoric populations, but less maize than did in the mission era. So what's going on? This is exactly what you would learn from the Wale, and you will also learn this from the Yamasi. But what Yamasi? The original Yamasi, not the Confederate. The original Yamasi will tell you that they brought maize at a specific time. When it got to Carolina, this is the ushering in of the Mississippian era. So this is why, and this is why this question running across the screen was posed to me, is because I started to show that, hey, yeah, before the Catholics came, Hiyoko, there was peace, but it couldn't be so much peace because you have a people who genetically changed. So not only did the teeth or the mouth of the Wale change, but the complete structure of their cranes had changed, which means that if they say, well, this skull is this, it may not resemble the exact appearance of the descendants. So their descendants no longer look like them. Now, given the strong signature of maize in the diets of this series, the relatively high frequency of dental cures in the South End Mound 1 series is not surprising. In particular, maize is a carbohydrate with a significant amount of sugar. A large body of evidence indicates that sugar is highly carcinogenic. The normal floral that inhabit the human mouth metabolize the sugar, producing lactic acid. The acid erodes the enamel and underlying hard tissue of the tooth, producing cavitation. So before the maize, the people didn't even have cavities. So this started to break them down genetically. Literally, maize changes the genetic structure. So now what happens when the people become smaller in stature? What happens when their teeth become weaker? What happens when they become more anemic? So now if you study Wale, you find out what was the percentage of those that were anemic during the mission system era. You will find out that that number is very close to the number of the total number of people that are anemic today, which if you look at the number in the United States, 50%, they say 49.5, which is 50% of the people that are anemic are quote unquote Black or African American. Now, this is not just something that just happened, but we see that in our ancient ones, they started to become anemic when they stopped eating from the sea and start eating the maize. But here's the twist. Those that continued to eat from the sea and ate the maize had higher iron than those that were banned from eating from the waters. So let's talk about comparison. So the comparison samples include 7 refuge Deptford period sites dating between about 500 AD and 500 BC and AD 600. In these periods dating between AD 1000 and 1200. So they're talking about, that's another section. They're talking about that Mississippian era. So when they're collecting these bones, they say, well, we got samples from the Deptford era. Deptford goes back about 800 BC, almost 1000 BC. There was no Yamasi at that time. The people that were here didn't come until about 100 years after the first cutoff of the depth fort, and those were the Timucua. The Timucua actually were here around 500 BC, which is a date that we also find here. But it says that the prehistoric foragers from St. Catherine's Island, very low levels of dental curies. So again, the depth fort people, those who created the people of Guale origins, right? They didn't eat maize. That wasn't their thing. They picked it up. So when someone said, well, the Guale and the Yamasi are more alike than they are different, this is false. And I'm going to tell you why. It's false because these were Europeans who said, hey, all of these Indians over here is niggas. So we just going to lump them all into one category. Niggas. That's how we are alike. But how are we different? Our languages are originally different. Our origins are originally different. Our creation and migration stories differ. Because again, not all of the people that were called Yamasi in the 1700s were Yamasi. And not all the people called Guale in the 1600s were Guale. Which autonym, endonym, right? This is why what you call yourself is more important than what someone else calls you. See, someone will say, well, Yamasi are the mother. We birth times. You say that your name means children of the corn, but these people over here didn't originally eat corn of the corn. Oh, I gave y'all a dagger. Oh shit. I gave y'all the true meaning. Yeah. But I ain't mean to get at for the true Yamasi. It might be on Facebook somewhere, but hey. So, but if you're children of the corn, if you come from the reed thicket, right? That's different from someone saying our ancestors were sent down, or our ancestors were always here in that water. And when that happened, this. We talking about, and we can have this conversation being a tribal people, because eventually our stories connect there, right? The Wale into the Yamasi would do a disjustice, because you're not giving a voice to the people who haven't been able to speak for how many years? When you figure out, or when you know that our ancient ones, right, their name, their speech, all of this was considered to be Muskogee, which was these people that brought the corn, right? Their lifestyle was considered to be other than. So what are we doing today? While they are restoring everything that we've lost, we're correcting all the misinformation that was put out by us. We're unifying families. We're linking with the scholars that are in the field, because they don't have the tribal information to tie into this work. But we're also linking with the tribal people who may not know these anthropologists. And we're dealing with families all across the board. Those that are ready to come back home with their families, not individuals. So when you ask what Wale is doing, close your eyes and listen. And then ask, how can I assist? If you can't assist, don't ask what we're doing. If you're going to sit back and watch, don't ask what we're doing. Come play the game. You want to be a part of the unity, right? Come be a part of the team. Let's unify. You keep yours without trying to bogart. This is usually the issue. Well, you know, we had the big name in the 1700s, and you don't see Wale in the 1700s according to English record. So we're going to take off and run with the name and the banner. You're wrong. You're wrong. Boyoti. And equity. Dishonorable. Right? So we love what we do. Our mothers, our brothers, those that can unify. Somebody from each family talk every day. That's what we do. We restore. We don't lie. We are students who teach. Mean that we're master teachers too. But what usually happens is when someone can't bully you, they get upset. When someone is in a place living a way, you say, well, that's my grandma house that you living in, and she was removed out of that house illegally. And I understand you there, and you actually done, you might be holding it down in grandma's name, but you ain't grandma baby, and we need a piece of that. And instead of taking grandma house or attempting to take grandma house, we say, hey, we coming to this bitch, take our shoes off. You good? But now when you say, well, damn, they know I got their grandma house and they want a piece of their grandma house, I have to now start claiming to be their grandmother. This is where the arguing, this is where the arguing comes in. Because if you don't know your tribal history and you're going along with, oh, there go. There go. There it go. So, right, and that bird is right on time. If you don't know your tribal story, you're going to argue when someone tells you. See, the one thing about tribal history that doesn't lie are neighbors. Neighbors. See, you can say you were somewhere, but you have to talk to the other tribal people. Now, when someone is talking to the other tribal people and claiming to be 13, 14 other tribes, this shit can get confusing. It gets spooky. So our goal is to make sure that it doesn't get spooky for you. Our goal is to make sure that this doesn't become religion, because tribal information becomes religion to people. They want not to listen to anything else because what they taught, what they know, what they were raised on is what's right. What you bring to them is what somebody else said, so it goes against what they were taught. This is religion. So when someone says, well, we've been here for this long, and these people came at this time. And when they came at this time, we was together back and forth around 500 years. And around that 500-year mark, something went wrong again. See, they tried to subjugate us first. We became friends. And then 500 years later, they tried to subjugate us again. War. But by the time the war kicked off, these Europeans were pulling up on the shore. And now, when you think of Guale, it's regulated to where? The fucking shore. So when you think of Guale, you say of the coastal people. You never think of the Talaquiwi, the people that the Lenape were speaking. You never mention the Guale, the people that the Appalachians were speaking on. You never mention the Igua that the speaking on. You never mention the Wade that the Zoya were speaking on. You never mention these actual people, and these are the ancients or the Iqui of the land. These are literally the ancients of the land. But what do you mean? Equifano utina. These are the ancients of the land. But what land? The land above. Above what? Everything. We are above South America. And if you say Wale is speaking on the coast, we are the edge. But if you say Yuba and Tamukwa, it can mean the tip of something, which is also what? The edge. So when you're looking at the map, you don't look at it north to south. You look at it like a colonizer. You look at it east to west, and you will see where you will fucking know who the original people are. That's who we are. That's what we do today. We teach our people, those who are originally from here, we teach them their story. We don't teach them that they come from elsewhere. We don't teach them that a DNA test is going to solve all of their problems. We teach them to listen, Listen, observe. Listen, observe. Okotu. Listen, hear, observe. Right? Listen, hear, observe. How to be the student. How to be the student. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in.